Welcome back. If you want to be in the cutting edge of the Warcraft lore, you've came to the right place. And while it's not a sure thing, there is a chance that the final raid of the War Within may have been spoiled via some innocent surface-level data mining. Obviously, massive spoiler warning. Before we go full spoilers, all I will say is, if this is true, I actually think it'll be pretty bloody awesome. So, if you don't want spoilers, it's time to click away and kill the watch time of this video if you want to stay. Well, things are going to be fun, because much like we knew we were going to the Emerald Dream in Dragonflight, we may have a lead on where we're going for our final patch. One that we'll keep the lights on till with the help of today's sponsor. Where we've got a new way to save money because Nord are launching Saily, their eSIM service, and they've got a new deal. If you go to nordvpn.com/Bellular Warcraft, you will get 4 months for free with a 2-year plan, and you'll also get an up to 20 gigabyte Saily data voucher. That is something that I really could have used a lot before, be it the most recent time I was at BlizzCon, or when I ended up wandering around Burbank after being dragged to an Overwatch League match that I didn't really care about. I wanted to get back to the hotel, I had no phone data, it honestly was a total mess. Essentially, you buy a plan, activate it with the app, and then you've got data. You can select from over 150 countries and get online, and of course, with my link, you get the 20 gig voucher. Now, of course, NordVPN is my longtime VPN. I've used them for basic security right through to region hopping to save money, and of course, unlocking region-restricted content. Sometimes that's news that I'm researching, or of course, the usual with streaming services and all of their annoying hoops. Nord offers so much more now, though, between their VPN, their security tools, Saily, password manager, and other things like NordLocker. Their apps are super convenient to use across your platforms, and you can get started today by checking out nordvpn.com/Bellular Warcraft, where you will get 4 months for free with a 2-year plan, and you'll also get an up to 20 gigabyte Saily data voucher. Of course, all backed by their 30-day money-back guarantee. So, cheers Nord, and let's go. Here's what happened. In the most recent build of the beta, a handful of inventory icons were found. They were labeled Ethereal Raid, very much like the data mining that found Goblin Raid a short while ago, and just like the Emerald Dream outdoor gear data mining that happened midway through Dragonflight, and the fact that the underground map for Zaralek was found in the beta, or either the alpha, no, I think it was the beta of Dragonflight. Now, there is one reason why we're not 100% sure, and that is because the icons match items that drop from the Ethereal boss, Nexus Prince Keveza, in the first raid, Narubar. The odd thing here, then, is that other icons in the raid are labeled Nerubian Raid, right? And some were added in an older build, some were added in this build. So, it could be a mislabel, and somebody just accidentally entered a value wrong. Or it could, of course, be a sign of things to come. And given World of Warcraft's extremely parallelized development, there's every chance people are working on 11.2 stuff at the minute. Now, an Ethereal Princess appearing in 11.0's raid would absolutely make sense if those Ethereals were to fully be a future raid. Think perhaps Guardian of the first ones in the Sanctum of Domination. So yes, could be a mislabel, but it also could be real, and it would certainly make sense if it's real given what Locust Walker said to us during the Dark Heart campaign. So then, if a Goblin raid is to be 11.1, and then an Ethereal raid is to be 11.2, that's the final raid of the next expansion, and that would mean it would be the inciting incident leading us into Midnight, which is when, according to Chris Metzen, the Void will invade Azeroth for real, and we will have our final showdown to protect the Sunwell, which does sound pretty awesome. Right then, where could the Ethereal raid be? And there's only one good answer: Karesh, the homeworld of the Ethereals that we met in the Burning Crusade, and again in Legion on Argus. Argus, of course, being another broken planet that, like Karesh did, and Azeroth still does, protected a world soul. Now, yes, the Ethereal Raid label is kind of flimsy evidence, but it gets the brain whirling, and given everything that's going on, it's hard to imagine that we won't go there. And Blizzard are not subtle, because Karesh having a world soul, and its world soul singing a radiant song in its final hours, just like Azeroth is doing right now, that is all new information directly from the Dark Heart patch. That is the very same patch that had us beating the Shadow Guard Void Ethereals away from Ulduar, and also that reintroduced Locust Walker to the story. Locust Walker, of course, is the mysterious fella who led Illyria to becoming a Void Elf, and really seems to know a hell of a lot more about Xal'atath than we do. Which itself stands to reason. There does appear to be a strong connection between the two people. I mean, at the very least, we know that Locust Walker had something to do with Karesh, or at least that he lived there, and Void Song, Stave of the Harbinger, is a weapon added to the trading post that purportedly was a gift from Dimensius to his Harbinger, and Harbinger is Xal'atath's current title. So if she is, or at least was, enacting his will, then maybe a past with Xal'atath infiltrating Karesh like she is doing in Azeroth maybe that would line up, and that would then leave Locust Walker as a character who has got a grudge to bear. Now, if you were a writer writing a story, why would you include any of that information in Darkheart? Like, any number of reasons really, which is where the speculation would usually come in if we didn't think we had an ethereal raid coming up. That narrows our answers down to one. You would write that because Koresh is going to become important to the game. Why would Locust Walker say that stuff if it would not go on to be relevant in the future? That's the same thing, in fact, that we just saw with goblins. Blizzard published a story about Gazlo trying to reform goblin culture. And then, on the beta, we found the venture company goblins that have found their way into Azj-Kahet somehow, and they've independently set up mining operations. We seem to know there's a goblin raid via some data mining, so we kind of know why all these pieces are on the board. With that, we can assume more or less that 11.1 zone will be undermined the goblin home. The same applies. We've been told about Koresh, and we see ethereals, so almost certainly they are going to be relevant, and the data mine label is very much in line with it. Now, assuming there is an ethereal raid, that invites a deeper look into Locust Walker's involvement, as it does a few other things, like the character Keveza, who is the ethereal that we find in Nerubar, and the ethereal who may have caused this labeling mistake that's led to this video's existence, and us thinking that we'll be going to Koresh. So, she is a void ethereal assassin, and she is sent on a mission to infiltrate the Queen's court. It's very obvious, like, she has abilities called Regicide and Queensbane. So, yeah, I think I know what her intentions are. Thinking about those ability names, your first thought would be that she secretly is there to kill Ensorek, to foil Xal'atath's plans, because she has an ability called Regicide and only just arrived at a palace. But that wouldn't escape Xal's notice. So it's possible the secret that she tries to kill us to keep is that she is the one who maybe helped to kill the prior queen, Nefres, so that Ensorek could be the new ruler, the ruler that Xal'atath could manipulate. That would place her as one of Xal'atath's Shadow Guard, and that brings us to the reason why we'd even be going to Koresh and why we would have to kill a whole load of ethereals. And that's because the Shadow Guard appear to be Xal'atath's closest and strongest allies, and of course Koresh is a very fitting home base for her. If she is going around collecting Old God blood, and she is, or at least used to be, Dementius's Harbinger, it would absolutely track that she would operate out of the ruins of the planet that he gobbled up. I mean, going by the general rule of magic in World of Warcraft, where something as insane as a world soul's consumption happened, like, Koresh is easily the place that makes sense as like a nexus of lingering power. Imagine Netherstorm in Outland, or the void-tainted part of Eridath on Argus, but up to 11. Besides, we've also never got to see what real ethereal architecture actually looked like in its prime. We've seen maybe some similar broker stuff. We still don't know what's going on with the brokers and the ethereals, like why they look so similar, and I definitely think that going to a void-ravaged planet would be a perfect precursor to the Midnight expansion. We would get to firsthand see the devastation that we would be fighting to prevent. It would very much be the massive climactic ending in a dead world, and the next expansion is making sure our world doesn't end up as dead as that one. Plus, I'd also say that going to Outland and Argus were pretty damn amazing times, so I think that going to another magically destroyed planet, one conveniently small enough to be a patch zone, is honestly a Warcraft cosmic staple. It would also give us a whole patch of Locust Walker, perhaps as we help him maybe get revenge for his homeland. Could be awesome. I mean, the whole impetus of the War Within is that we are hunting Xal'atath down with a vengeance and trying to stop her from doing whatever she does, and of course sorting out the messes she leaves behind. So a confrontation, but not necessarily a resounding victory, is exactly where I would expect the story of this expansion to end, because obviously it needs to go straight into Midnight, and Blizzard would be insane if they killed Xal'atath fully for good. I would then also say, if you were an executive and you wanted to grow World of Warcraft and you were like working with your creative team and what the big patch is going to be, you'd do something like Argus. Argus was almost like a mini expansion. It had three different zones. It was marketed extremely heavily by Blizzard, and by all accounts, it was a massive success. So having something like that, where you can let your artists go absolutely all out and kind of blow people's minds, that is precisely what would work for the end of this expansion. So if this pans out, it only really leaves a few big questions left for the next almost 2 years of World of of Warcraft. One of them is how involved are the Haranir in all of this, and then how much damage will be done to Azeroth by the time we're finished this expansion. There are then a million smaller questions left, like what's going to happen to our characters, what's up with Khadgar, what's the fallout of Dalaran being at least heavily damaged. That's all interesting stuff I'm looking forward to finding out in the game. Here, what we really have is just a big picture scaffolding, a good idea of where we could be going. I can say that the Argus reveal was an absolutely legendary moment. Like, I still remember Ian announcing that at BlizzCon. Crowd flipped out. It was an amazing moment. Them doing something similar here would be, I think, fantastic. And I also hope that Blizzard change their labeling practices so that we don't know the end of Midnight, or at least its final raid, you know, at the start of the expansion. Because look, if we're doing Midnight and then we see Lightbound raid, maybe a few Draenei, number one, a lot of people are going to be very excited, but number two, it would kind of ruin the surprise and the reveal. Still though, in terms of a strong fantasy, I think War Within is kind of nailing it with what is on the beta right now. I'm a little bit, like, mixed about the Goblin stuff, but I sort of know what they could be doing there. If you're to tell me that the culmination, that the big finale is Koresh, I know that at least in principle, that's extremely exciting to me. So there you go. Maybe we do have a final Ethereal raid, and tell you what, I've always thought the Ethereal were awesome. Like, just from playing the Burning Crusade, seeing them, like, oh man, yeah, the Ethereals are great, so an entire patch of that. Yes, please, sign me up. Okay, let me know in the comments, do you believe that this is the case? Then you can check out our video on Xal'atath, and also we have a video on actually the fall of Koresh. So if you want to learn all about the place that we've been talking about in this video, good news, there's an entire lore deep dive. So I hope you enjoy that, have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time.
Mm-hmm.